Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing great. If you remember, we finished all the way up to this point. We talked about the interfaces. We said interface is pretty close to something that we consider as promises, list of promises, something that I saw in many of the implementations where using and implementing methods cherry inside the interfaces, right? And now we want to continue our journey, making sure that everybody is aware of what interfaces is. One of the suggestions that I had for you guys to work on was working on quizzes. And I told you the final exam would be the continuation of what we learned in quizzes like double quizzes and midterm. So let's just watch this quick video together.
Their name is similar, is and here is the question. What is the difference between is and as operator? This is not at all a good question. Actually, there is no relationship between these keywords except their name is similar, is and as. But conceptually, there is no difference. Oh, I mean, there is no similarity. But I don't know why some interviewers ask this question, but let's explore the answer of this question. So first of all, we will talk about is operator. The is operator is used to check the type of an object. Let me show you the code. So here you can see we have an integer type I. Now in the next line, what we are trying to do is this check variable is checking whether this I is a type of integer or not. So this check will be either true or false. So this is the thing what is operator does. It is pretty straightforward. Whether any object is type of any class or not, that will be checked by the is operator. So it will always return true or false because either it is the type of that class or not. So here like I is integer and we know yes, that is right. So what it will output? The output will be true. So that is the purpose of the is operator. Now we will see what is as operator. As operator is used to perform conversion between compatible reference types. So again, let's see the code. See, here is object obj is assigned a value hello, right? Now we want to store this hello in a string. And when we
look at this one here, it says that whatever the object is, convert it to a string and save it into str1. Is it possible to do that conversion? If that is yes, it's going to save something in str1. Otherwise, it's going to be a null value. Okay, so here on the left side, you see, you simply check if, for instance, I is 5, 10, whatever, is it integer? Yes or no? Boolean is going to be what we are gonna get. So check is going to be either true or false. But on the right side, when you say that obj as string, is it possible to convert it like do convert dot to string? Is it possible to do so and save it into str1? If yes, you're gonna have something like string in str1. Else, you're gonna have null.
a string, then we have to convert this obj to a string, which will done by as operator. So here obj as a string, obj will be converted to a string, and the conversion is happening now. And why I said that between compatible reference type, because obj and strings are compatible reference type. You cannot store integer into a string because they are not compatible types. You can store obj in a string. So the type should be compatible, but more importantly, the as operator do the conversion of the type. So that is the purpose of as operator. Now, second difference you can say, which is again I already explained, that the is operator is of Boolean type, meaning it will always return either true or false, nothing else. Whereas as operator is not of Boolean type because it will convert one type into another type. Now let me show you quickly in the code also the output of these two.
Okay, instead of
See-
spending time over this one, I have already provided examples for you. So please, everybody, file number 20, everyone has. If you go to simple example, that's actually what you see here is what we watched in the video. So check this one and then run. For the first part, the check is going to bring true, as you see, and then we have some asterisks, and then we see that it is saying convertible, right? And then we check if it is not null, means the conversion happened, and it would be convertible, right? And then it shows str1. People at home, let me just double check. Sharing the screen. So people at home, can you see the screen? Guys, can you see this code? This side, please. Thank you. Sadie, can you see that I'm dragging and dropping on console.read key? Oh, let's just stop sharing and then share again. Can you see that I drag and drop on console.read key? Okay, awesome. So guys, did you finish it? Could you get the result? So now change hello into 1, 2, 3, for example, 1, 2, 3, and run the code again. And see that this time, because it is null, because it was not able to convert 1, 2, 3 into a string, it says not convertible. We got into this condition, and you see that. So the next thing is another example, and this is pretty much based on the interfaces that we learned together. If you want to see which one I'm talking about, the slide number 15. So get to that one, and then you're going to have interface is singable, is likable, is movable. I'm sorry, I movable, I likable, and you see that the bird is derived from I singable and I likable because bird has come from there. If you create an object based on the bird class, first question is, are the type of Jake, which is based on bird class, and bird are the same, like, is it integer, for example? You know what I'm saying? It's like I equal to 5, is I integer, that kind of thing. So it is going to give you true. And now it is time to ask I singable. Is it possible to say Jake is the same type of I singable? And because if you go there to bird, you see that it has come from these, it has implemented all the promises in singable and likable. The answer for this one would be true. The answer for likable would be true. But the answer for movable, what do you think? False. It has no relationship with that. So that's why you're going to see it's going to be true, true, true. But the last one is false. Okay. So spend a few seconds, work on that, and then we're going to get to the next example. Okay, done. If you're done, please give me a signal. None. Merci. Bravo. Thank you. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds. Thank you, Felipe. Okay. Look at the next part. The next part, I'm not going to cover it now. The only difference is using lambda or not lambda. I have provided the code for you. Just instead of having like lambda food equal to worm or food equal to seeds, just you see we have curly braces here. So we don't need to just go through all the code. I just wanted to ease the job for you if later you want to go through it and see what is happening there. The next thing that we have is using as. Okay, so use Control C, copy the code, and this time I want you to spend a few seconds, talk to your neighbors, and see if you can understand what is happening here. The trick of the code, the major part that you have to be aware is these 5 lines. Okay, done. So let's just see what is happening here. Everybody, please pay attention. Here I said, let's create an object B from the class bird. Is it clear? Then I said, let's have C, right? Which is equal to, what is, guys, happening here? We create an object, and that object is the based on I singable, and I placed B inside that C. I wanted to do that conversion, and I tried to place B. Do you remember that we said object, let's convert it to integer? That was a simple example. Here is a little bit, might be confusing because we don't deal with something like a string, integer, float, double, or something. So we say that let's convert B to isingable and place it inside the container C. And now the question is C equal to null or not? That's the question. If it is equal to null, what does it mean? Means that we were not able to convert, right? To convert B as isingable and place it into C. What is your guess? I know that you all ran the code and have the answer, but what is the thing that we learned from here? What is bird? First thing, if you look at bird, it contains what? I singable and I likeable. Guys, do you think that this is doable? Yes or no? Let's run it and see. Because this guy had both two, it is possible to get back to isingable as we expected. And now the last example that we have here is just a, well, I'm not going to cover the lambda things. You know better than me, just replacing those things. But how about this one, guys? Instead of isingable, remember again, bird is derived from two interfaces, isingable and iLikeable. How about iMovable? Nah, we don't have that. So if I say, is it possible that I convert this one into iMovable? What could be the result? And look at this one. I intentionally had for, yes, if then else cases, where is the thing? Oh, it's 24, I'm sorry. Look at this one. I just created a complete thing customized for that. So I said iMovable C, and let's convert B to iMovable. And this time I expect, because bird doesn't have iMovable, this time it's going to trigger the else condition, which says it's not possible to convert it. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, just spend 30 seconds, explain what you learned from it to your friends. Okay, can I have your attention? Everybody is done? Yep. Guys, knowing that the class is recorded and I'm recording, so as always, I'm very much on top of the things that I'm going to share with you, and I know what I'm saying. And this is recorded for later use. So just to let you know, guys, whether you want it or not, the only drawback for me to share that is you are going to calculate my age. I have been into this business for 29 plus years. And I very much know what I'm capable of, what I can do, what I cannot do. For instance, if you see that it is mentioned on the door, on the actually the window part of it, that we are not allowed to drink and eat in the lab. I very much try to accommodate and not, but there is a chance that somebody comes and say that, hey, Reza, why people are eating? So I know the regulations, but I try to be flexible. But if I hear, I can say that, hey, eating in a class distracted me and doesn't let me do my job. Does that make sense? So that is a part that I can do. If you click, I can say, guys, that is my ability to let everybody knows. I can say that, hey, you distract me and I cannot do my job. This is in my part of duty to say who sits where if I need to do so. So I know that. And at the same time, I know what I'm not capable of. If I come to a class and say that you people from Iran, you are like, that would be my last day of staying in academia in Ontario. I have to go to another province to let you know. If I say that, you atheist, guys, I just said atheist because that would be my last day of staying in. So I know my rights. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm not capable of. But what are your rights? It's good to know those too. Another right that I want to tell you is till the last day, if everybody brings everything, all the check marks, all the assignments, all the quizzes done, but maybe I am not correct. But if I say that that person is not capable of going to the next level, I can do that. But that person could go and say that Reza is not assessing correctly, and I think that I deserve to pass. They call it grade appealing. You have that right too. Guys, I'm repeating this because I want to emphasize that all the things that we are doing, like bringing bonus mark, bringing videos, we need just to show that, and guys, I'm not sick to make somebody stay in a class which they deserve to pass that. There are some, I don't know, maybe, but I assure you, if somebody deserves to pass, they are gonna pass with good grade. So there is no technique. One person came to me and said that, Reza, why you didn't give me mark for assignment 1 and 2 in one of the classes? I said, I see that in week number 4, still you struggle to run one simple code in your computer. How can I mark you saying that you get perfect result in 2 assignments and you're not capable of running one in front of me? Is it, and I know that it works for some of the classes, it doesn't work for me. That you go and say passing mark strategy, like I get this mark from here, I get that bonus mark from here, and let's just calculate it. Guys, it is going to be 120. If you're not capable of knowing what you're doing, you are going to stay in this. And this is not threatening. That's my job, to make sure people go to the next level when they are knowledgeable enough. Otherwise, we are going to have tons of people that they are not real engineers. And that's the result. I told in one of the classes, I'm not going to repeat that, go and read the story of Montreal Bridge. What happened because of miscalculations of engineers. Many people died in Canada. They did that mistake 3 times and over 150 people died. And if you have seen, some people have a ring. Some people have a ring and they call it ring of engineers in Canada. You can't see it in other countries. That's the remainder of the bridge that they melted and make rings, to always remember that we are in a position that if we don't do our job correctly, it could end up killing people. So we are responsible for what we are doing. The other things, recording the class, not my duty. I do it just as a favor. Having any other groups outside here, not my duty. I just do it for my heart, right? So I had in one of the colleges, not here, and somebody said, hey, why you're using that logo? I was like, none of your business. I know my rights. Nobody can tell what avatar I'm gonna use. Guys, I very much know my rights. And I try to use it. And let me tell you, if somebody tells that, hey, you know what, I received some emails to change the type of the class from in-person to online. What the heck? It's not possible, guys. No prof has this right to change the class just because of receiving some emails. No prof has this right to cancel a class just because, if they are sick, yes. And if they are sick and they cancel a class, they have to make up a session. After 7 years, I just canceled 1 session and I provided 5 alternatives for people. 5 different alternatives. I said, this is, you remember those class. And Arjun, Wailong, Irene, you were there too, right? In that specific occasion that I needed to be, that was my last duty at IEEE. I needed to be there and I provided 5 different things. And why I'm telling you this, guys, because the input of the system should be different from the output of the system. If you spend your time, and guys, you spend high tuition fee at Centennial. And if you think that I'm talking about 8,000, 9,000 per semester, think twice. I'm talking about your youth. You spent 2 years, some people 3 years, in this institute. The input should be different from the output. And I don't care if somebody comes and throw their stuff on the desk. I see, but I don't care. That shows who they are, and it's not my business. I'm not here to be a parent. But I'm very much responsible to make sure that I do my job correctly, and I expect the same from people. And I know everything is recorded. Let's continue our job. The next part is polymorphism. And polymorphism is one of the pillars of object-oriented programming. Look at the pillars that we have. Encapsulation, guys, what was an encapsulation? Anybody? Lovely. What is the major things that represent encapsulation? Who said? Lovely. You made my day. Properties, setter getters, encapsulation. What is the abstraction? We already know that, right? The abstraction. What else? Inheritance. We worked on that. And we have 2 types of inheritance. We have 2 types of inheritance, a mild version of it, which we have multiple inheritance from interfaces, and we have restrict parent-child relationship or base-derived relationship. and polymorphism. And we have already used polymorphism in many cases. Look at this one. We have static or compile time polymorphism, and we have dynamic or runtime polymorphism. So static polymorphism, they call it early binding as well. And for dynamic polymorphism, they call it late binding. The best for knowing this is nothing but practices, and I have fetched all the codes for you. So it's going to take fraction of minute for us. But before that, I want you to go to this website. Imagine that I couldn't get from the class that much. So what could be the solution? I go to W3 Schools, polymorphism and overriding methods. It talks about polymorphism means many forms. So guys, this is a Latin. So poly means many, and morph and morphism means shape. So many forms, many shapes. And it occurs when we have many classes that are related to each other by inheritance. Like we specified in previous chapter, inheritance lets us inherit fields and methods from another class. Polymorphism uses those methods to perform different tasks. Again, look at this one. Polymorphism uses those methods to perform different tasks. It could be, guys, you already know, it could be based on number of parameters, for example, that you pass. It could be based on the parent-child class that you pass. They are all under the umbrella of what? Polymorphism. One example that you see here is class animal and pick, which is derived from class animal. Guys, animal is a class or interface? Please tell me. Is it because we don't have I? Excellent. One of the things is if we had public void animal sound and semicolon, it shows that, we just have a promise and we need to implement it somewhere else. Apart from that, guys, the classes starts with class keyword, and interfaces, they start with interface. Lovely. So here you say, hey, animal sound, and you say it like that. But guys, I found an error actually, and I want you to help me. That is the question that I mentioned it here. Let's not scroll further. Let's just challenge ourselves with any question. Actually, when I wanted to run this and I ran that, it gave me 2 warnings. I don't know what those warnings are. I want you, please, find the warnings. It should be here. And I do not have my glasses. So you'll find it. What are the warnings? And what could be the solution for them? Well, what's the problem then?
We have to use probably abstract and new keyword, or we have to use new keyword.
Actually, all of the answers are correct. Is it possible? Yes. We have 2 approaches, but Jordan and all people, can you share with your neighbors whatever you said? Also, Manav, please share with your friends. Just to give me a second, I'm sorry. You were saying, sorry? Exactly, exactly. Okay, guys, I overheard what you said. So I just used new keyword here. And in that case, guys, I'm gonna just take it out again. And if you see, it says that, hey, this one is from the parent method and use new keyword. And new keyword, is it going to hide or is it going to override the previous one? Which one? It's going to hide. If you want to override, you're going to use virtual override. Why I'm saying that, look at this example. Guys, this time I just solved that problem by saying new. But look at this example. So you can copy this part. And then look at the last part that we have. We have one dog and we have one dog too. You see that? In dog, I'm going to use the dog.animal sound, but in dog 2, I say, hey, convert it to what? To the version that we have in the parent, which is animal 1. Look, for the dog 1, it's going to say bow wow. And for the animal, it says that the animal makes a sound. That is for the last one. You see that? So you can access, you actually hide. You still have that. Okay. Question? Okay. So now let's just quickly read this one. And this is a question from one of our amazing team members, Udi. 2 semesters ago, she was my student. Udi asked the following question. So please pay attention at this one. We have used the animal classes method. In short, if we use new and we do not use override, we technically hide the original and we can access the base. But what about this one, guys? If we say virtual and we say override on the following, is it possible to get animal make sounds like before? Let's try, I don't know, but there should be a difference, I guess. Just a guess. Look, if I run that, instead of animal make sounds like before, it says bow wow. Means I cannot hide and bring it if I say convert it to this one. Does that make sense? Okay, one of the things that people, because of the similarity of the names, could get confused is the word virtual and abstract. Just in 30 seconds, tell your friends what are the differences between abstract and virtual. And explain this code as well, please. Good morning, Sergey. Okay, glad to meet everybody online as well.
Good morning, Professor. Thank you for this opportunity to be online.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming. Okay. Everything is fine, guys? Let's go to the next part together. And that is the time that I borrowed an example from Microsoft. So you have the link, watch it up, read it at your convenience later, but copy the code from there all the way to here and try to run it. Spend a few seconds, see what you can get from it. Remember, we have something like shape and we have virtual, and then we have the other things, draw, rectangle, which is derived from shape, and triangle derived from shape. Spend a few seconds with your friends and see what you can grab from them. Done? Okay, look at this one. May I have your attention, please? We have a class that's the base class that contains all these attributes of fields, like, properties. Today's one of those days. X, Y, height and width. And then we define, that's the focus of this. We define a method which is draw. And we say virtual, guys. The question is, if I say virtual, is it possible to implement an object based on this class and call this method? Yes or no? Obvious, it is possible. It is virtual, it's not abstract, right? That's the difference that I wanted to talk to your neighbors and say that whenever it is abstract, it is not possible. We just promise we are going to go to the next. Look at the next part. Here I say override that. If I call the circle, we are going to say drawing a circle. What is that thingy? Anybody can tell? Lovely. It is going to draw, which we have in the parent class, in the base class. And that is why self-descriptive say base.draw, right? And the same applies to this one. If I run that, first thing first, look, we create a list of, and that is something that hopefully, I'm not sure if we can just touch the topic today. What is this thingy, guys? No, that angular brackets. Generics. We defined it with multiple possible types, right? So here it says that we are going to have a list of shape class. We could have list of integers. That is something that I saw in double quiz for some of the friends. They defined objects based on the classes and they wanted to go through it. And the funny thing is they said list of strings. Hey, we create list of objects, for instance, pizzas, but when you say list string, it means that we have some problems. And there we say new rectangle. Do we need to have any specific name for it? No. It is possible you could just define one rectangle, let's say rectangle rec1 equal to new rectangle. Do the same thing for triangle and just say rec1 try1 and so on. And the same for circle. And if you run that, you're going to see we are going to have drawing a rectangle, and that is the base class. Guys, one question: what is wrong with this code? If I say new shape, and is it, I'm sorry, new shape. What is wrong with this? Nothing is wrong with it. It's just going to call the parents class object, right? And it's going to show just performing base class drawing tasks. Yes. Exactly. Hmm. True. 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 Good point. Yeah. There's one thing in general, it's a good thing to know. Whenever we have, guys, we have quizzes, it should be, again, I'm telling you what could be the balance. It should be something like we have covered 90% of the topic in the class, and then 10% for searching in internet. When we are talking about assignments, you need to know something like 70% of the topic, and the 30, I'm saying roughly. The rest should be your learning and your search, your part of that's a part of education. For projects, we need to know 50% from the class. The rest of the 50, again, roughly, is our task to go and learn. I remember that they asked me last year in the other college that, do you know any person, we want somebody to work in a project, a paid project. And I announced one of my, I don't see if that person is my friend or not. I just checked the list who participated in all the classes. That is very important to me. And punctual, did everything, and I just sent that person to the project. And then later she talked to me, said, Reza, that's 2 months. Every day it was equal to hardest projects that I did in my all college life. So we need to get prepared for the time that you go to an environment that you know just a few things and you need to search for the rest. So nobody knows anything, and do not expect that we explain everything in the class. Good point. Let's go to the next part together. And that would be, how about this? Now it is 9:21. Let's have 9 minutes break and then come back at 9:30. Thank you. We're going to start in 1 minute. Okay, because it's unofficial, another thing that I want to tell you before we officially start is, guys, at any educational system, no prof, no one is allowed to tell you that you have to go to another discipline or you are not built for this topic or something, just to let you know. So even the profs are not allowed to tell you anything about quitting or what. Their job is to educate people and to test if they are qualified to go to the next level. Nobody is allowed to say anything about continuing your education in this field or any others. And yeah. If it is possible not to mention any name.
Then those methods saying that if we want to drop out, we have to do the work. It was advising us to do that. And I was like, I
No.
can't pass them through all that.
No one is allowed to. And to tell you the truth, unfortunately, I participated in many. I have even certificates, and once in a while I try to update myself in many method of instructions, teaching methodologies, and so on. I have the toughest certificate that they provide at university for such things. But the thing is, unfortunately, many of my colleagues, even my supervisor in one of the colleges, I can't tell anything further, they're not aware of that. Once one of them told me that, yeah, Reza, that person that you talk, I know him. I was asking about one of the students' problem. I told him even in person that you are not built for this and you have to quit. I was like, oh, you're not allowed to say that. I didn't say anything, but even I have some people higher in the rank, they are not aware of what is the regulations. Based on Ontario regulations, no one is allowed to tell you have to quit this subject or not. And that is your right to actually, guys, I don't want anybody likes me. I like myself enough. So if somebody tells me that, I look into their eyes and say that that's none of your business. Honestly, I don't want anybody likes me. Hey, that's none of your business. Just put your neck into your life. I'm here, and people come to this for different reasons. I had students, and that is why I'm telling you that we are not allowed to, I'm not allowed, I can completely understand. I had some students that they came to me and they said, hey, this is my prescription. This is something I'm under the medication to tackle the depression. And I'm just here to make my mind busy. So I can't tell that a student what to do or what not to do, you know? And we are not here to judge each other. Everybody has some responsibilities. Let's just do everybody. The students should do the responsibility, the teacher as well. Okay, so let's go to the next part. 3 minutes spent for that. I didn't meant to that. Let's watch this one together.
It's Bro, hope you're doing well, and in this video I'm going to explain polymorphism in C#. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, what's going on, people? Polymorphism. Polymorphism is a Greek word that means to have many forms. With programming, objects can be identified by more than one type. They can have many forms. For example, let's say that we have a dog. A dog could be considered a canine, an animal, and an organism, So a dog has more than just one form, it has more than one data type. Here's the situation, we're going to have a race. We'll enter in a car object, bicycle object, and boat object. So I have 4 classes. Vehicle is the base class, otherwise known as the parent class, and car, bicycle, and boat all inherit from the vehicle class. So with my race, I'm operating car object, bicycle object, and boat object. So let's do that. Car equals new car. Bicycle equals new bicycle. And boat equals new boat. I would like to place all of these objects within an array for my race. But what's the data type of the array going to be? So let's try and make an array of cars and add for car, bicycle, and boat. And let's just see what happens. I will name this array just vehicles. Equals, and then within curly braces, add whatever objects you would like. I would like to enter my car into the race, my bicycle, and my boat.
What is the problem here?
The array is attached to the parents.
Excellent. We technically didn't consider that, hey, car is from the class of car, but how about bicycle and boat? They are from the class of vehicle. So this side should be more comprehensive, right? We need to go to the base class. Absolutely.
Errors here. Not implicitly convert bicycle to car. So I stated that the data type of this array is going to be cars. I can only enter car objects, so I have no issue there. But I cannot enter in my bicycle and boat objects into this array. But one way in which we can solve this is by using polymorphism. So we can find what they all have in common. They all identify as vehicles because they all inherit from the vehicle class. These objects have more than one form. They can be identified by more than one type. So instead of my array being an array of cars, I'm going to change this to vehicle because, well, these 3 objects identify as well a car, a bicycle, and a boat respectively, but also vehicles because they inherit from the vehicle class. So you can see that this is valid. If you need to create an array of different types of objects, you have to find what they have in common, and then you can just use that as a data type. They are all also considered vehicles. Let's move on to part 2. What I would like to do is have all of these vehicles use a go method, so they will all begin the race at the same time. So let's create a go method within each of these classes. Public, void, go. And we'll just display the car is moving. Place that within the car class. Let's make a go method for bicycles. Change car to bicycle. And then the boat is moving. Okay, now to iterate over this array of vehicles, we can use a for each loop. For each, now what's the data type of our vehicle array? Well, it's vehicles. Vehicle, vehicle, in vehicles. And now I would like each vehicle to use its go method, vehicle.go. So each vehicle will use its go method, but there's one more thing that we need to do. We need a go method within our vehicle class. So all of these methods within our car, bicycle, and boat classes all are going to be overriding a go method found within the vehicle class. So let's create a virtual method. Public virtual void go. And we don't necessarily need to define anything within the go method because we're going to be overriding this method. Okay, then we need to use this override modifier. All right, now when we iterate over this array of vehicles, each vehicle will use its go method. It's as if when we would like to begin our race, all of the vehicles within our array will use their go methods at the same time. The car is moving.
One of the things, guys, everything is clear so far. Believe it or not, after 6 months, when you go to other courses, you're gonna remember part of the things that we learned this semester, right? So you need to have some kind of mottos, some slogans that you always remember. Okay, which one was override? Which one was overload? Override is the one that you write. if you don't write, then it's going to be overload. Just kind of motto to remember, right? You never say that overload, you use overload, but for override, you write override. That's just to remember.
Bonus thing. So yeah, that's polymorphism. It's a Greek word that means to have many forms.
Okay. The other thing is, oh, I'm sorry, Astra. Now, can you hear it? Let's go to the next parts together. Right after these things, the code from the video. Please, everybody, just implement that. Control C. Bring it to your Visual Studio. Run it. See if everything is fine. And if you have any question, ask your neighbors first.
Polymorphism in C# is the
C.
ability.
Okay, done. Everyone, so nothing was new. Everything was explained. This is an awesome 1.5 minutes. Video.
Polymorphism in C# is the ability for classes to provide different implementations of methods that are called by the same name. So in this example here, we have a class called parent, and parent implements the interface iPerson. iPerson has the method signature for make schedule, and the person class implements that method make schedule here, and it writes this to the debug line. That works well for this class because it's the parent, but we also have a class called child that inherits from the parent class. So if we call make schedule here, the output is still going to be making schedule for parent, and we want that to say making schedule for child, but we want to maintain the same interface, and we don't want to introduce another method onto the interface. So what we can do is we can say, we can add a virtual keyword here, and that allows this method to be overridden. So if we go to the child class and we then say public override void make schedule, you can see we just overrided make schedule. So now we can introduce a new functionality for the same method, making schedule for child. That's really the power of polymorphism, because now we can maintain the same interface. We can call the same method, but now it's referencing this implementation of the method that has different functionality.
Okay. The next thing that we want to do is the last example. If you go down, the slide number 8 to 11 from the class, please drag and drop everything and then bring it to your example here. Okay, so please increase the volume at your end. And this time, I think that it was not that low. Okay. But please get back to me for the next video. Okay. So what do we have here? We have drawing object, and then we have line, which is derived from drawing object. And then we have circle, derived from drawing object, and so on, square, the same thing. Look at the things that we have in drawing object. We have a virtual draw. When we see a virtual, means that somewhere down in one of the inherited classes, we are going to overwrite that one. Okay, so here it says that I'm just a generic drawing object. And then here I just say I'm a line, and for circle, for square, the same thing. Now you can see, for instance, the usage could be whenever I define a shape or drawing, do we have any specific formula to implement area? No, we don't have any formula that covers all the shapes, right? But what if it is circle? Yeah, we have a formula for it. What about rectangle? What about triangle? For any of them. So we go to this part, we say, let's have a list of, again, guys, generics. Hopefully we are going to touch the topic today, but you already know what is it about. We create objects, right? In here by saying new line, new circle, new square, and new drawing object, right? And then for every single object in that objects list, we are going to say, use the draw, right? Let's see what's going to happen. So for line, it's going to tell, I'm a line, circle, a square. And for the last one, which is a generic, right? Draw, it's going to say, just a generic drawing object, right? Everything is super clear. By saying that, we are ready to move to the next journey that we have. And that is one of the interesting topics. Before having classes, we had structures. And that is why before object-oriented programming paradigm, we had structural programming paradigm. Okay, what is struct? It is pretty like class. So structures are like classes. If there's an interview, you could say in the dawn of time, when we talked about the structure, it was quite different. But after having object-oriented paradigm, they made it pretty similar to what we have in object-oriented. But classes are reference type, while structures are value types. Guys, you say this sentence and you pass that question, hopefully pass the whole interview. Again, the structures are value types, whereas classes are reference types. What do you mean by that, Reza? That is why we have this file. So before anything, let's just watch a quick, but you don't need to, useful websites. We just take a look at W3 among them. But you will see that I have borrowed examples from there.
In this video series, we have discussed enough about the classes. In this video, we will discuss something about the structures. Basically, the implementation-wise, structures and classes are similar, but as we know, structures are value type while classes are reference type. Let's see what all the difference we will see during the implementation. In this program, you can see an implementation of structure where I have created a structure called myStruct, and inside this I have created a public property of integer type called val. So inside the main, you can see I have initialized or instantiated the myStruct, and to val I have assigned a value 10. Later, I instantiated another instance myStruct2 where I copied the value of struct1 to this. So obviously when you will print it, you will get 10 in the mystruct2.val. But if later I will modify the value of mystruct1.val, it will not cause any changes in the another instance called mystruct2 because they are value type, and if you will modify the value, it will not cause changes in the another one because both are having a separate.
Look at this line 16, I mean. Here, when you say mystruct2 equal to mystruct1, it doesn't mean that create mystruct2 that points to the same address of mystruct1. If it is that, then it is a class. Here, when you say such a thing, means go to my struct1 memory address, copy that, place it in another location of the memory. So these two guys are two separate things. They don't have correlation. So let's go to the example that I have provided for you. The first one, Control C, and bring it to here. Look at this. I create a struct point. You see that? Struct point. And I have two fields here. One is X, the other one is Y. And what is this one, guys? Lovely constructor. And then I pass those two things into it, and the print coordinates is just a method that I created to display X and Y. Is it clear for everybody so far? Awesome. Look at this one. Here I define, intentionally, I just said, let's tease ourselves to have program later. I said that let's have P1 equal to new 0.3 and 5, show the coordinates, and then P2 show the coordinates. It is going to work like Mercedes. All those points are vivid. You can see them 3, 5, 7, 2. That's what I expected. There is no challenge till this moment yet. That is why I provided something a little bit more challenging. So everybody please go here. The next example. And look what I have done here. P1, obvious, P2, obvious. And I mentioned this is P1, this is P2. You're going to see why I have done that. Now I said create P3 equal to P1. And I said P3 after defining it like point P3 equal to P1. Everybody could follow that. And I say, show me the coordinates. And then I said, let's change the X value into 100. Guys, do you think that P1 is going to get changed as well? No or no? Okay, so we are gonna see that. This is why we said call by value. Look, after it was for P3, after assigning, it was exactly like P1. Do you see that? These two? But when you change X in P3, it is going to show 105. But look at this one. P1 is still what it was before. I don't know, just instead of saying struct, let's say class first. Do I need to do anything else? Do you think? And let's just run it. Is it going to give the same result? Look at the last line. When you change P3, they both, P3 and P1, they point to the same address in the memory, call by reference. You change one, both of them are gonna change, right? Just try this. Explain it to your neighbors, and we're gonna continue. Okay. How about this, everybody? Go to example 2, please. Control C, and then bring it here. This time, please spend a few seconds. That's the very much primitive way of defining structure books. And as you see, we have nothing but a few attributes or fields kind of thing, right? Look at the things that we have here. We define book 1 and book 2. We put the values, we assign values to all those things, and we simply said, show me the values that you have already assigned. Very similar to what we knew it. I borrowed that from the examples of the websites, but spend a few seconds, run it, and see if you understand everything. Okay, done. If you're done with that, please go to the next example. That's the continuation of current example. I have just added a little bit of things here and there. So you can see the same as the previous one. We have book 1, book 2. And then I created book 3. And when you say, put the content of book 1 into book 3, it's going to copy in another location of the memory. So that is why whenever you change, for instance, title and subject, it is going just to change title and subject of book 3, and nothing would happen to book 1. That is why I said, show me the content of book 1 after those changes, and see, no harm done, nothing happened. Let's just go to this one. That is book 3, which is going to be exactly like book 1, right? And after changing the name from C programming to Python, for example, you see that you can see the changes in book 3. But if you go to book 1, nothing is changed. One of the topics that they just touched in the slides is records, and I have provided this, especially this, the one that says comparing record versus, yes, that's it, classes, structures, and record. This is the best that you can watch it at your convenience. But guys, records is not something that you see in all the places. That is why I just provided some materials for you. It's not going to be a part of exam as well. Again, the major things that we cover in object-oriented, almost everything that we face, you're going to see them here and there in examples and projects. And the programming is way bigger than what we cover in current semester. And the idea, that is something that people may make this mistake. They think that the idea of learning any language is when you are the master of everything, guys. The bad news is you cannot find any person in the whole world, even those who wrote the compilers, that they are familiar with everything. We need just to know the principles. And after that, if you need to apply anything new, you're going to just read that part, watch some videos, and that's it. The next topic that I want to cover for today is definitely not this OOP do it yourself. I want you please go and work on it at your convenience, but that is kind of like briefly explaining everything. So I didn't remove that from the slides, the original slides that the Centennial provided for us. But basically, many of the things are theory, and you can just read the content at your convenience. The things that I expanded is this one, exceptions. Whenever you hear exception, what comes to your brain, Sherry? Sherry first, if you don't mind. Sherry, one? Yeah, whenever I say exception, what comes to your mind? So something which is not aligned with the things that we expect, rules, regulations, or something, right? Something different from the expectation, right? Okay, let's go to a little deeper concept, and let me ask you this, and I provided these slides, guys. Exceptions, pain. Guys, pains are our enemy or our friend? Tell me. Friends, why? Pardon me? Okay, good. Yeah. Actually, pains are our friends, our very close friends, because they say, hey, something is not working properly, so do something about it, right? And imagine if, for instance, cancer had something similar to catching cold. When you started the process, then something shows vividly, then you can just do something about it. The problem of cancer for many people is they become aware when it is a little bit late, right? So the pain is our teacher. And that is why I think that that's a nice thing. It says that the pain will leave once it has finished teaching you. You're going to see in programming as well, guys. And another question, it's beyond the topic of this course, but let me ask you, we are in the era of robots, right? Boston Robotics, they create robots. They work exactly like human beings. They make robots like dogs. Question, do you think that they need to provide the concept of pain for robots? Think about it. This is a good topic just to think. But the real struggle starts from here, and we have only 48 slides. Are you ready? So it says that the objective of, let's just go. The objectives of these exceptions contains that conditions for abnormal state in your program. Something, as Sherry said, not aligned with the regulations, rules that we expect to happen. Learn about exceptions and learn about traditional and object-oriented error handling. So another name, traditional name for exceptions is what we call error. Does that make sense? Before exception handling, what was the original method to handle the errors? Anybody remembers? Anybody knows? Why we have exception handling in .NET Framework? Before having exceptions, what did we have in the programming? Can anybody think about it? Okay, let me ask you one thing. Guys, you want to calculate the, is anybody out? Okay, just, I'm gonna open the door for that first. Let me ask you, you want to calculate the A divided by B. A divided by B. What are the possible problems that could happen? I repeat the question for people at home. You want to divide A by B. What are the problems that could happen? One, you said something? B is 0. So yes. B is, if B is infinity, then the division becomes 0. So that's not a problem. But if B is 0, then we have infinity, right? That's the problem. The other question for you, what else we could think of? They are not the same data type, then it's going to, if it is convertible, it's going to just typecast it. Is?
Irrational.
What's the meaning of irrational?
To make,
Tell me.
so they will not be able to get a proper student.
I beg to differ. For division, we have just limited things to check, like B not equal to 0, or A is, for instance, string, B is, they are not convertible. Okay. Let me ask you another question. First is, imagine that you want to connect to a database and get some records from there, like name, last name, numbers, okay? What are the problems that you could face? Guys, I have some intentions to ask you all these details questions. You have a database and you have a form and you want to connect these two guys together and you want to fetch name, last name, and phone number, as simple as that. What are the potential problems that you could face? Yes. The connection between server and the client corrupt, yeah, it was just not established or broken because of some incident. That's one problem. What else could be? Imagine that the username and passwords are not correct in the connection string that you provided. Could it be? The network had issue. Is it possible? So you see that there are tons of things that you could consider, and you say if the internet, guys, imagine that you know how to write that code, right? So don't worry about that part. If the internet is down, so say problem. Else, if the username and password is down, say another error message. Else, if the connection is broken, not internet, just the connection to the server, then say another problem. Is it clear for you guys? But let me tell you something surprising. One of the things that you have never thought about could happen, and that is you do not have authorization to change or to get the information of that specific table. Oh, I haven't thought about it. Did you get the point? I checked everything, but I haven't thought about one potential things. One thing that in cybersecurity they tell you is this one. Listen to this. They say if you have 100 windows and you check 99 windows, there is a chance that a thief comes into the system with just one window that you haven't checked. The same applies to exception error. If you check all the conditions, but you haven't thought about one potential that could happen, then that exactly thing could cause problem. Is it clear? So if then else was the old-fashioned form of checking the errors, but exception handling is the modern one. Everybody could relate to that. Let's see some examples. So they defined bugs, user errors, and exceptions, but generally speaking, there are 3 types of errors that I very much like to divide it into that one. One is called compile error, the other one is runtime error, and the other one is logical error. What is compile error? Anybody?
When I don't type the code, when I made that spelling mistake.
Guys, whenever you see those squiggly lines, that is compiler. Simple. You forget semicolon at the end. You have open curly braces, you forget to have close curly braces. Anything that it's gonna yell and say, hey, something is missing. The other thing, runtime error. A is equal to 10. Is it wrong? No. B is equal to 0. Is it wrong? No. But what if you say C is equal to A divided by B? It is going to show error only when you run the program, because A is equal to 10 is fine, B is equal to 0 is fine, but the division happens in runtime and it shows problem. Does that make sense, everybody? Now let's go to the anything about this.
Another quick example is if
Okay.
if I put the special condition before the main condition, the second condition is going to continue first, so the result is not going to be the same.
I need an example. Please share on the Telegram. If I can understand it, I'm going to share to the class. Thank you. Look at the last one. So guys, look at this. Can I have everybody's attention? The first example, semicolon. The second example, divided by 0. The last example, guys, you have 3 numbers, 10, 15, 20. You sum them up, divide by 2 instead of dividing by 3 to calculate the average. Does that make sense? The logic is not fine. To calculate the average, you need to divide 3 numbers by 3. The sum of 3 numbers by 3. Does that make sense? Always just remember examples for each of them, and you're going to be safe. If they ask you about exceptions, just say you're going to have compile whenever you see compiler error, runtime divided by 0, or logical error, mathematical error. Does that make sense? Okay, spend just 1 minute, talk to your neighbors, say, how about this? This error, is it going to get to this category or that category? Spend 1 minute, and after that, you can ask. Okay, you had a question? No, that is something that we are gonna talk. For instance, you expect that you have $100 in the banking account and you withdraw $20. So what do you expect to have after that? 80. But what if you just have one tiny teeny error and instead of minus you use plus, so it's gonna show 120. So then that's gonna be the topic that hopefully today we're gonna just see 2 quick videos if we are lucky to finish them. And then you just compare the expected and the actual results. If they are not aligned, then you're gonna say, oh, something is missing. We have a problem. So let's go to the next parts together. So be proactive. It says that try to avoid conditions that cause problem. Like what? This is something that not anyone tells you. Did you learn that in software engineering robustness? Yes or no? Robustness? Okay. One of the things that we need to learn is to make our application. Guys, one of the best courses that I ever had, I remember in my bachelor degree, was software engineering. It meant to provide you the structure of how you think about your career in terms of all the aspects, like the way that you collaborate with other peers, the way that you generate a package, the way that you even put price, what could be the way that you can define a price for your package, because we all want to create something. Should we just wake up one time in the morning and say, you know what, we are going to assign $1 million for that package? Hey, come on. There should be a kind of mechanism to even define. Are you going to look at the competitors? Are you going to calculate the amount of hours that you spend for that? What are the mechanisms even just to put price? One of the things that I remember, and actually, well, it was 26 years ago that I was in that class, and I remember my prof, how he talked about this robustness. He said that, hey, imagine that you expect to receive date and time from the user, and that user just puts some gibberish, some characters, random characters. Do you want that your system collapse after that? This is what we call it robustness. Guys, always we need to make our program as robust as possible. And do not ask your friends to check your application. Ask your enemies. Always remember today, whenever you want to check your application, don't ask your friends to test your application. Okay, let's see what are the things that we have here. Instead of going to these things, I prefer to jump into this part. Everybody, please go to the file that I have provided and see what is going to happen in slide 9, 10, and so on. Okay. Guys, do you see that whenever we have, did you run that part? So you see something like this happens. And if you hover the mouse, right, it is going to tell you that division by constant 0, right? Look at the next code. And for doing that, I intentionally, let me just show you. And I did it last night. Let me just make sure I have that. So you see that here in the test folder, I have one my info. And imagine that it doesn't have anything. It doesn't need to have anything. But in that case, if I go here and if I say stream reader, go to the test and then read that file, you see that there is no problem, right? It goes there, reads. Guys, I don't like to have two of these guys. Anybody can remember what I can do? $sign, right? Lovely. Who said first? So, no problem, Jaina. Okay. Rishi, you raised your hand? You said as well. Festus said that. I said it too. I heard that. Don't worry. Rishi and Festus. Okay. What if I just say my info 111? Is it going to show anything here? Is it going to show error in runtime? So now you have another example of runtime. Huh? What if I read something, instead of putting that thing inside the name, right? I put it inside the zip code. Both of them are a string. What is that one? Is it compiler error? Is it runtime error or logical error? Both of them are a string, so it's not going to show any error. It's logical error. Hey, you put last name inside, you know what I'm saying? Inside the zip code part. Imagine that you don't check and control that it should be 6 characters and so on. Okay, let's go to the next example together. And actually, if you see, I changed it to, that's funny, I just used exactly 111. And how about this one? What is the problem of this? Can anybody help me? I have forgotten. Lovely. Hey, this is string. There is no capacity to change a string into. How about this one? The pickiest data type is Boolean. So you cannot you can easily convert the other way, but not from, for instance, integer too. Okay, how about this one? What is the problem of this? Square brackets.
The length, then the total number, it should be prime.length -1.
Means like this. Lovely. Yes, exactly. Whenever you say that length, how many characters do we have? How many, sorry, numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's going to say, show me the element number 6, index 6. But the indices would be from 0 to 5. Totally 6 numbers. But the indices would be 1 less compared to the overall length. Does it make sense, guys? So that is why we have this example. I want you please go to the file here and make sure that you could. There we go. It's a slide 14. Just try that. So everything is done? Yep, lovely. And next part, slide number 15. Sorry, slide number 15 is the solution for that. How about 19? What is wrong with 19? Anybody can tell anything? That is something that we started our examples with, right? And there is one problem here. Okay, if I say 1 divided by 10, for example, no problemo, and it's going to show the thing, right? Where is the thingy? 1 divided by, try this one, right line, this. So, uh-oh, what is the problem of that, guys? This is integer, so it's going to be 0.1, and that is why we didn't say what to do with that. We have to do typecasting if we want really to see the results accurately. But we are gonna get to that in no time. For this example, I said, let's say b is equal to 0. You don't see any squiggly line here. No compile time error. But when you run it, it's going to, thanks goodness, it's not gonna show you any error, because we said if any error happens, then go and say, hey, you wanted to divide 1 by 0, which is not acceptable. Say attempted to divide it by 0. Does that make sense? It is not very much accurate. I know, Irene, it is not very accurate. You had that complaint. You're right, because we could have other problems as well. Like what? Like instead of divided by 0, say divided by hello. Right? This is just one possibility. Look, whenever you have, everybody, this is super important. Let me knock the door. Whenever you want to write a code, the part that is error prone means that there is a chance that you face error. Put it inside the try. Means try this one. But if any exception happens, then you're going to catch it, right? But it could be some errors, right? Guys, remember, it could be some errors. 1 divided by 0, the other one not proper types, correct? So what should we do? That's the question. If you want to catch some exceptions, are you going to start from the widest to narrowest, or from the narrowest, most specific to the widest? Think about it, talk to your neighbors, and we are going to have the answer in no time. My question again, imagine that there could be a problem. Are you going to start from the most general to the most specific, or from the most specific to most general? Think about it, talk to your neighbors. So what is your answer, Manav? Most general to most specific, right? Let me ask you just one question. If you start from most general and you catch the most general, can you be specific about it? You know what I'm saying? But if you start from the most specific, if you cannot catch it, go to one level higher, then one level higher, then one level higher. And you see that in general, it didn't work. It didn't work. Let's find it out. But if you start from there for the things that you could be specifically pointing about, okay, this is divided by zero, right? You know what I'm saying? So the best is to start from, it works. In either case, it works. But when you catch the most general, there isn't any chance to go to be specific about it. And we want to be specific about it. We wanted to. Okay. Let's go to the next part together. Guys, what is wrong in this one? I can't understand this. There is something new. Huh? Why people should throw exception? Come on. We already have enough error in our lives. Why should we add more? Think about it. I want you to have an answer for it. Why we need to throw exception. This is one example. In general, why you need to throw exception. Just work on it.
Let the user know about the issue. Specify direct.
Okay, how about this? Let's spend 1-2 minutes with our team members talk and then. So apparently many people want to, how about that? It is 10:32. Let's come back at 10:40. So when 3 people go out means that it's the time for, yes. So let's have 10-minute break and then we are gonna come back.
Here, here.
We're gonna start in 1 minute. Okay. The question that they asked you before is why we set throw new exception, as you see here. The reason for that is, in many cases, you want to say, hey, the value that you fetched, imagine, it's not in the range. It's not in the range that I expect to receive, right? In such cases, you're gonna throw exception. For instance, here, we said, hey, Reza, why do you like to divide by 0? And if I run that, it is going to throw this exception saying that, Reza, why do you like to divide by 0, right? Imagine the next that we have in a slide number 24. Let's just bring it there. And in that case, I said, hey, no matter what it is, I say a string name and I get it from the user. And if it is equal to Reza, then throw the exception. And look at the funny thing that could happen. Look, even saying \n is going to bring it to the next line, and it's going to say that throwing an exception, colon D, intentionally I wanted to see that this is written by me. And next line, it is hello from Reza. Does that make sense? So by saying that, let's go to the next part. Guys, again, we see we have here try, catch, and then we have try, catch again, and we have try, catch again, and we have try, catch. We have a kind of hierarchy of having main. In main, we called module A, and in that one, we called method B, and in method B, we called another method, method C. And we do not have any real exception. And by saying real exception, I mean that no divided by 0 happened, no file wanted to be open, which does not exist. We wanted to just raise one error, one exception. Hey, it's not in the range. That kind of thing, right? Okay, so I want you first, everybody, this is not super simple. It needs a little bit of contemplation. So I want you to please spend a few seconds, run it, and then see what happens. And try to explain it to yourself and to your neighbors. Whoever could finish, just give me a signal. Done. Okay. Can I have your attention, please? Everybody. Look at this one. This is actually the main. If I wanted to write several classes, like, for instance, class program, and then inside that static void main, this part was inside a static void main. Does that make sense? So that is why. So I just want to clarify why I said main method is done. This is technically a main part. In try part, I said console.writeLine trying in main method. Does that make sense? And when I run it, technically the first line that I'm going to see would be exactly this one. And then inside there, I said method A, so call method A. Guys, please pay attention to this. First line, definitely we are not going to have any error. So even a better practice could bring this one outside, but because I wanted to say where we are, that's the only reason that I just put it inside there. Look at this. We say catch exception E. What could cause any error? Calling method A could cause error, right? But look at this part. After finishing that, we say that main method is done, and look where we have that. Oh, what is happening between? Do you see why I wrote all those messages? Because I want to go deeper and see what is happening. When I call method A, technically here is the start. I say that trying in method A, that is going to checked. And then inside method A, I call another method, and that is method B. And look at this one. In method B, I say trying method B. So look at this one, method A, method B. And in any one of those, guys, when I say calling method B, then I say if any error happens, and that could happen from where? Calling method B. If any error happens, I'm gonna say cut that inside method A, and the error message is this one. Does that make sense? And then I say this is this message. I say throw new exception. Aha, you remember that when we said if it is equal Reza, throw one exception. Whenever you say throw exception, guys, imagine that any module, any program, they have a knapsack, or I always have one of these bags, so I can just use it. Actually, I have two of these bags. Less plastic. So always any program has one of these bags, and that is for error. Does that make sense? So any program has one of these bags, and if any error happens, you are gonna put that error inside this bag. Does that make sense? People at home, you're happier that you don't see my struggle. So now I have one error inside the bag. Exactly, that is the result of throw new exception, means put something into that bag. And the thing is, guys, when that happened inside A, so I have something. If I check this time, guys, tell me if I check this one, is anything happened in A? Yes, in A, I had error in the back of A, module A. This is why I brought all those things out, right? If anything happens, I'm gonna just show, but I want your attention from the beginning again. Look At the beginning, I said try in method, try in main method, and I called method A. Any exception till this moment? No. So I'm going to say main is done at the end if there is no problem happens. But let's go to method A and calling method A. In here, I say, show that trying in A, right? And then call B. Is there any method happened till this moment? No, nothing happened yet. So we call method B. And in method B, we say that trying in method B, so this line is going to be done. And then here I call method C. Look at this part. Method C is going to be called, and it says that in method C, and intentionally I throw one exception. Intentionally, I say throw new exception and say that this came from method C. But what is going to happen, guys? This bag was method C's bag. I put something here inside it. Let's go to the color method. What was the color method? It was method B. Is any problem, any error happened while I called method C? Yes. So please catch it, caught by method B, and show the error message, which should be this one. And that is why you see that I caught it in B while the error message is in here. Does that make sense? And now, after doing this, you see, you showed me error. I'm going to raise another error. So this guy raised another exception. This exception is in the bag of who? I'm sorry, so I need to bring another bag. So, and it raised another error, right? I put it here. So the bag for B, I need help. A bag for B already has one error. Is it going to do anything here? No. In calling method A, in method A, in calling method B, is there any error in the bag of B? Yeah. So that is why it's going to say, I cut it in A, but the error message came from where? B. Lovely, you got it. And then we are going to have, I need another bag. Guys, this is for A, and I'm gonna put the error in this one. Does that make sense? I thought that you want to give me another bag. So it says that this time, guys, this time in the main method, when you call A, is there any error inside A? Yes. So that is why whenever you get to this, it is going to check if there is any error. Yes. And that error is caught in main. Look at this one. It caught in main, but it was generated in A. It was in the bag of A. And after that, when you are done with the game of throwing errors, you're going to say done with the main. That is why we have this one. I want you to spend 2-3 minutes, talk to your neighbors, go exactly like that. You don't need any bag. Do it.
study એટલે પછી બ્રેક અહીંયા બ્રેક આવી ગયો તો લાઈવ let's wait in the part.
Okay. Is everything clear? Huh? Look at this one, and actually I couldn't make it work, so I need your help. Let's do it together. I'm going to bring this one, all the code, into here. Control V, and it shows lots of errors. So apparently we need, guys, these are from the slides. So apparently we need some stuff from some other places. Let's go and see, in a slide number 30, that was 37. In a slide number 38, we need to have another file, which is account exception. And I'm gonna right click here, and I'm gonna say add class. Look at this part. In the class one, I'm gonna just replace it with account exception. And it is going to open another thing for me. So let's get to this part, drag and drop everything. I want you first to make sure that you can implement it. And then we go to the account, which is the last part, right? Control C, and its account. So I'm going to create another file, right click here, nowhere else, and then say add class, and then say account, and then place all those things. And if we get back to the program, you see that there is no sign of any of those squiggly line, right? I don't know how, just make it work. Okay. Can I have your attention, please? Look at this one. We have, you can just save everything that we have created. Look at this. We have one class, and the name of a class is account. And in account, we have, guys, what is this one? You know, constructor. And here we have balance. And for the balance, we have getter setter, but here it says that private setter. By saying that means you can just use one of the ways that you can use is getting a parameter here and place it into the balance. And we define a method, and that method is withdraw. We get an amount, and what you're going to do is, if the amount is greater than the balance, what should we do? Should we accept, imagine that you have 1,000 in your account and you want to withdraw 2,000. Imagine that we don't have overdraft mechanism, right? Normal cases, it should raise an error and say that, hey, insufficient fund. Does that make sense? So in that case, we say throw new account exception. In the simplest way, you can just say what? Just insufficient fund, right? And else, imagine that you have 1,000 and you want to take 200 out of it. Very simple. So it's going to say balance 1,000 minus 200. It's going to be new balance, which is 800, correct? And if you just want to say what is inside my account, you use that post and say balance is equal to balance. I didn't check everything I should. Like what? You can't go to a teller or to ATM machine and say, I want to get minus 200. Hey, come on, what does it mean? You want to deposit 200 or you want to withdraw? You can't say that I want to get minus 200. So that's one part. Let's go to the account exception. This is not very sophisticated. You just have one class called account exception, which is derived from a base class called exception. Does that make sense? We have a base class called exception, and in that base class, which is exception, all the error messages, they have come from here. You want to personalize, you want to use your own exception. That is why whenever you want to throw, you're going to throw your own class exception. What are the things that you could have? You say that, hey, guys, what is this thingy? Obvious constructor. So you're going to say, whatever I get here, I'm going to just send as the exception. Does that make sense? Just to let you know, whenever you throw an exception, we have one important message from exception that is going to be accessed from the object of exception of any problem. Whenever you face any exception, one object is already created. If you say that dot is going to make message for you, for instance. I didn't go through this, and now it is time for us. Any object of exception contains all these things. The most useful one is this one, the message. So if you say e dot message, it has come from, now we can talk professionally, it has come from class exception and from a property named message. Does that make sense? We get back to week number 1. I promised and I told you one thing, anything inside C# is either object or a class. Exception is no exception. Whenever you face that, you're talking about an object created based on exception class. And if you say EX dot, most of the time you use just E. E dot, it's going to give you a range of things that you can talk. One of them is message. Okay, Let's simplify it, bring it back here. In the program, the amount that I have is 255. I'm gonna create an account A passing 225. And then I'm going to say, okay, show me A1. Guys, which one is going to be called when I say A1? Go to account, post. It's going to show this one, right? What else, guys? Then I'm going to say amount is 100, and I'm gonna say we want to withdraw $100. And then I say A1 dot withdraw. Where should I go? In account, we have a mechanism called withdraw. Is 100 greater than the balance that I have, which is the amount 100 is greater than 225? No. So we can simply go to the else condition and withdraw that. Does that make sense? But what if instead of that, I say one, let's first see if everything goes fine till this moment. This one shows the amount when I say show me the things, balance is equal to that. When I say withdrawing 100, this is the execution of line number 7. And after that, when I do the withdraw, means 100, after it's going to show you balance is 125. But what about this time? What about this time that I say the amount is equal to 150 and I want to withdraw it from 125? Do we have sufficient fund? Yes or no? No, we don't have. In that case, guys, first thing first, when I say A dot withdraw amount going through here, it is going to catch inside this part. And it is going to throw what? While long? It's going to throw account exception dot insufficient fund, right? And what is that one? Enumerated data that I defined there. Let's go to here. I said go to account exception enum. Does that make sense? Look at this one, account exception enum. Which part of it? The one that I said enum. Sorry, insufficient fund. And that is why it shows that error insufficient fund. We don't have that amount of money. Does that make sense? So guys, now your task is, I don't know how, but to ease the job for yourself, delete all these files that we have created and bring everything into just programs. And explain the code to your neighbors. Okay. Guys, let me just tell you one thing. Here I have announced all in one begin, and you can go all in one end, right? So between these two, just copy and paste. You're going to get some stuff, right? So run the code. And see what is happening. Is it a bit difficult? No? Good. Okay. Chokan, is it fine? Not a little bit difficult. Kalun, a little bit difficult as well. Okay. To honor this group, I provided another version. Guys, look at this one. I actually, the version that you have doesn't contain this. Let me just correct it in front of your eyes. Here in the account, we throw one exception, right? We say throw new account exception. Am I correct? Instead of account exception, just say exception. And instead of that, say I've just fabricated this error. You do not have money. Okay, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? I need to take care of one more thing as well. Let's go to here, guys. In the program, okay. Let's just get rid of this one, account exception. And now I say exception. This is a simplified version. Does that make sense? Look, in the account, I said if the amount is greater than the balance, means you don't have enough fund. So this is going to be an exception that you're going to raise. If that thing happens, when that thing is going to happen, if in case you want to withdraw 150 while you have 125, the exception is going to be an exception that you have thrown in here. And it is going to show the message of it. You create one object of exception, and one of the things that you could have is from that object is what? The message of it. Look at this one. You see this? So your task is simplify the program that you have in hand. Make it like this. Whoever could finish, please give me a second. Done. Excellent. Thank you. Andy, thank you. Let's just make sure we are done. Jainam. Jainam, what did you do to Kanjan? No, this, Aiba. Okay. Philippa, Rishi, and Jordan, and Cherry. Okay, done. Guys, look at this one. Let's quickly go through it. Can I have your attention? The approach that we got to it together, I prefer it compared to the approach of the slides. I think that we are having a kind of missing part. Look at this one. I define a class name account. Everybody agree? And in that account, what is this thingy? We use lambda in our constructor to get a parameter balance. And with that, we are gonna put that balance inside the property balance. Does that make sense? And having a private means that we are going to have in one of the methods or using constructor to get the value for it. Look at this one. Here I said, in the withdraw method, we have one method. If the amount that you want to withdraw is less than a balance, sorry, if the amount that you want to withdraw is greater than the balance, means you do not have sufficient fund. So please raise an exception, and what you are going to pass inside an exception that you raise is going to be the exception message. Does that make sense now, everybody? Yes, 100%? Lovely. Else, if you have sufficient fund, then you're going to go to that route. And nothing else here is just close to show how we want to show the balance. Now it's the time to say amount is 225. Let's create one account and pass that 225. Show what you have there. When you say A1, which method is going to get called? Host, right? And then, guys, after that, you're going to say, let's have amount equal to 100. You want to withdraw that, and then do the withdraw. We know that. You might say, and that is absolutely correct, saying that, Reza, this is not a correct way of withdrawing, because you never know if it is 100 or 1000. You should check it, put it inside try catch method, right? You should have that inside like this one. Here we were sure we designed it, but for any withdraw, you need to have that. So it's not the best way that I used it. I was sure that nothing would happen by deducting 100. So I said that, okay, withdrawing 100 and a dot withdraw that 100. Technically, I should say amount. That's the more accurate way of saying that, right? And finally, I said, okay, show me what do we have now. After that, I said withdraw 150. And because we don't have sufficient fund, it is going to raise an error, and that error is going to be cut. It's in the bag of, guys, it's in the bag of here. And because it is in the bag, I'm gonna just bring it out and see dot message, and the message of that is this one. Does that make sense? What if I want to personalize the error message and personalize the exception? In that case, whenever, guys, listen to this, whenever we want to personalize any of the things that we have as predefined, we need to define our own class. We need to define our own class. And that is why, if I bring you back to this one, I'm not going to tease you by explaining all the lines. I just bring you back to one part. Here I defined one account exception instead of using a general exception, which has come from that root, which has come from that ancestor's exception. And it has an enumerated, just to ease the job for me, for later use when I say, how about condition number 1, condition number 2, condition number 3. So the most common one, let's put it in index 0, is what? Insufficient fund. How about the next one? Maybe you use ATM and you use wrong password, right? Or incorrect password, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So what we are gonna do is, guys, what is this one? Somebody tell me. The constructor, but what did we pass to constructor? We said that account exception enum, right? EX. So whatever you are going to have in here is going to be from the texture of the enum that we have created here. That is why in there we said go to the account exception, go to the enum and get that insufficient fund one. Does that make sense? I was like, you know what? I'm tired. What I did was this. I said, instead of going to this class and have that enum, who cares? Let's just have this one. I was lazy. I just replaced that nice mechanism by something like this, insufficient. But why it doesn't work? Because it accepts only enumerated data. What if I just pass to the ancestor, it accepts, and I need to get rid of this one, and I need to just correct this one. That was the journey that we had to simplify it. Okay, so now that you know both of them, please explain to your neighbors. Let's spend 2-3 minutes. This is everything fine? Okay. So today, if you want, I can just, you said. Okay, so, no. Last week you said that you wanted this, so we can just talk. Right. No, after.
Oh, yeah, but also we have the meeting with the group, about the motivation of the
Okay, so,
So it was about that.
okay,
So I understood that there were some problems.
okay, don't worry, we're gonna talk about. Okay. So guys, how's everything? Fine, getting better. The simplified version is, it's better, right? So there's a good news. If I ask you in final exam, it's gonna be simplified version. Yay. So, and the thing is, one part, I need to be loyal to the material that they have provided. Guys, there is one thing. Just to let you know, I was not aware of all these details. Many things happened and I learned them. The course outline that they provide at the beginning of the semester, and every prof are responsible to provide it on the course contents. That's the must thing. And it's like constitution. It's the contract that we agree on when we start the semester. The materials, a prof can just use or not use. They are suggestions to us. And I try to be even cover them as much as I can. If there are tiny, teeny things that I think it would be essential that I can help my classmates, so I'm gonna just add them. But just know we are not allowed to drastically change anything. That is, if it says that the midterm should be in week number 7, it should be in week number 7. Unless that I cannot cover and I announced it 2 weeks in advance and I need to send notification to the department that because of this, I couldn't set up the midterm on time, and that's it happened in another college that I teach, and it was holiday. So I needed to bring it to a week after. I announced it and I set the reason, just to let you know. So that is why there are some of the things, and that would apply to you guys as well. And that is why we have progress in generations. Obvious. If everything was better in the old version, we don't have any progress, right? But if you ask old guys, they're gonna say, in our era, everything tastes better. Yes, you're right. Thanks heaven that we didn't have internet 40 years ago. Otherwise, they're gonna say, in our era, the internet was faster. Guys, any one of you who come in this position, you're gonna change. I'm not the exception as well. That is why I do not recommend when you want to teach, start with exceptions, with those kind of tiny, teeny possibilities. Talk about the general approach. The simplified version that I just added is a general approach. This is how you're gonna see 99% of the time. Next thing that I want to tell you, there are some exceptions that you don't see. It's not gonna raise any problem, but there is a problem. Like what? If you say that integer number dot max it is going to give you the last number that we could find in integers defined by computer. Does that make sense? By that compiler. But what if you say that maximum number, let's add 1 into it? What's going to happen? It's like you have a glass. It can contain 500, I don't know, a mug that 450 milliliter, and you filled it with 450 milliliter, and you add 1 drop on top of it. What's going to happen? That deserve to have 1 bonus. Sorry?
Surface tension.
Surface tension.
No, no, no.
This is C#, not physics class. And what is going to happen is, look at the example that I provided here. Everybody, it's exactly what happens. If I say, what is the max value in, let me just get rid of this part, Control X for now. This is the maximum number that we could have as integer in this, right? But look at this one. If I say check, add 1 into it, what's gonna show? It's going to overflow and change the sign of the number, because there is 1 bit which takes care of what? Sign. It's going to get to that part. Look at this one. The number was positive, but it says that arithmetic operation result in an overflow. Does that make sense? If you don't have that, and say whatever A is, A plus plus, and let's not have this, what's going to happen? It was a positive number. It's going to overflow into the sign part. Does it make sense? Now, whatever you learned, explain to your neighbors, and instead of max value, try mean value. And this time, are you going to say, to check it, are you going to say plus plus or minus minus? So try it, see what's going to happen. Okay, can I have your attention, please? This is the answer to what we were searching for. And that is, this is the smallest number in the integer range. And if I say -1, it is going to be arithmetic operation results in an overflow. That's the exception that's going to raise, but in a very simple way of saying that, what if I say console write line, and if I say minus minus a, let's see what's going to happen. It's going to show you this is the smallest number, and if you deduct anything from it, it's going to overflow and change the most significant bit. We call it most significant bit, which belongs to the sign. Okay, by saying that, now we get to this part, and that part is nothing but again, our beloved row code.
Well, it looks like we're on exceptions today. An exception is an error that occurs during execution. So here's an example. I have a small program where we will ask a user to type in two numbers, divide those numbers, then display the result. So what if I type in something that's not a number? I would like to divide the number 5 by the word pizza. We'll encounter an exception, and this interrupts our program. We encountered a format exception. Input string was not in the correct format. So any code that is considered dangerous, where it might cause an exception, we can surround with a try block. So I would consider this code to be dangerous. So type try, then a set of curly braces. Surround any code that is considered dangerous with the set of curly braces. Now, if we have a try block, we also need a catch block. So after the try block, add catch. And the catch block catches and handles exceptions when they occur. But we need to specify what kinds of exceptions we would like to catch and handle. So catch, parentheses, curly braces. And this is kind of like a parameter. So I would like to catch and handle any format exceptions, then add E. So if we encounter that same exception again, instead of our program being interrupted, we can do something else instead. So let's write a message and let the user know to type in only numbers. Enter only numbers, please. And let's try that again. Enter number 1, 5. Enter number 2, pizza. Enter only numbers, please. And this did not interrupt our program. That's the important thing. Now, these try and catch blocks, they will only catch and handle format exceptions. What if somebody accidentally divides by 0 or intentionally does so? So we do not have a catch block set up for that. We can add multiple catch blocks. So let's catch any divide by 0 exceptions. So catch, parentheses, curly braces. And the exception we would like to catch is divide by 0 exception. Then add E. So if somebody attempts to divide by 0, let's display a message. You can't divide by 0, idiot. But this only occurs with integer division. So let's turn our doubles, X and Y, into integers. And we'll have to change this cast as well. So change 2 double to int 32.
Guys, did you see something happen? He said change double X double Y into integer. Why?
So if we attempt to divide a number by 0, which we can't mathematically do, this is what happens. Enter number 1, 5. Enter number 2, 0. You can't divide by 0, idiot, and this will not interrupt our program. Now, you can add a catch block that just catches everything, but it's not considered good practice to add by itself. So sometimes I'll add a catch all block, just in case if there's any exceptions I do not anticipate. So at the end, we can add exception E, but it's difficult to let the user know what went wrong exactly because it'll just print when any exception occurs. Something went wrong. So this will catch everything. Let's remove the first 2 catch blocks. So let's take 5 divided by the word pizza. Something went wrong. Now, catch exception E does catch everything, but it's considered poor practice to have this by itself because basically you're shrugging when something goes wrong. You should let the user know exactly what went wrong. So it's better practice to catch specific exceptions first. Then at the end, you can add, exception E in case there's anything you don't anticipate. By the way, I changed X and Y back to doubles. Now, the last thing we need to talk about is the finally block. The finally block is optional. It always executes regardless if an exception is caught or not. So at the end, let's create a finally block, type finally, curly braces. If there's anything you'd like to do after your try and catch block, regardless if an exception occurs or not, you can place that here. What people typically use the finally block for is to close any open files if they need to reset anything. But for this example, let's just print something. So let's display a thank you message. Thanks for visiting. If we do not encounter any exceptions, this finally block will still execute. 5 divided by 1 is 5. Thanks for visiting. Now, if we do encounter and catch an exception, well, that finally block is still going to execute as well. Thanks for visiting. So yeah, those are exceptions. They are
Okay, just to see one of the use cases for that, imagine that you have a website similar to Amazon and you want to sell stuff, right? And somebody decides to buy, I don't know, a pencil, and you do not have any exist inside your stock, right? So you're gonna raise an error, but whenever you close, you say that thanks for visiting the website, right? If you have that and you say whatever you have, the stock amount is going to be equal to stock amount minus the order amount. You have 1,000, 10 is already ordered, so it's going to be 1,000 minus 10. Right now you have 990, you updated that. And then whether you face error or not, you're going to say thanks for visiting the website. Does that make sense? So finally is always for the cases that in either case, facing error or not, you are going to just execute, you're going to show. By saying that, now we have a code here that belongs to this part, and I want you please, yeah, this is exactly what the gentleman said. So here we started with format exception and divided by 0 and exception in general, and try all of that, please. Very much a sleepy eye. So 10, for instance, as use pizza, it's gonna be enter only numbers. Thanks for visiting. Or try divided by 0. Say 10, 0, right? Done. Excellent. And now the challenge, I asked you a question, and now let's see. It says that why the floating doesn't show. Okay. Do you see what I made here? I just said double before. I just said double before X. And the result is double as well. So let's see what's going to happen. If I say 5 divided by, I'm sorry, if I say 5 divided by 2, that is fine. The good thing is it's not going to truncate and say 2. But the other thing that is going to happen is 5 divided by 0, and it's going to show, sorry, don't show, don't divide by things. Oh no. Yes, if the numbers type are double, it shows infinity. It's not gonna raise error. Do you remember that I asked why the gentleman changed to integer, not leave it as double? Because in that case, we cannot raise any divided by 0 error. This weekend, I'm gonna meet Bill Gates and I'm gonna ask. The one who wrote this compiler decided to just show infinity. Okay, try that. That's this done. Awesome. Okay, done. Awesome. Can I have your attention, please, guys? Look at this one. At the end of the example, I just had solution. We casted the result into double, but divided by 0 can only be cut by integer values. That's the question that they ask, and you have the answer. There are some useful websites that I have shaped up for you and some videos. To the interest of time, regretfully, we cannot watch them or go through them, but I have provided something which is very practical in terms of intensifying the concept that we went through a few minutes ago. And that would be, as you can see here, we have a program and we have a class named account. And in that class that is account, I mentioned that if the amount that you want to withdraw is less than 0, means you go to ATM and say, I want to withdraw minus 200. It's going to say, what are you talking about? So amount cannot be negative, right? And then another one, if your amount is greater than the balance that you have, then you say new. Guys, now we know it's not a big deal. I just simplified it. I said, hey, I'm not gonna use general exception. I just want, guys, this is a very simplified version of the original one. I said I have account exception, which is derived from the base class. The only thing that I say here is, hey, the constructor is the original constructor. Done. Does that make sense? You could add a few things to show your signature there, but I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. This is, if somebody asks you that, okay, write your own exception, this is the easiest shortcut to use your own exception while borrowing from the, yeah. So that is why this guy is going to work. I want you please go to that file that I have provided for you, file C, the last one. Try the first, and I don't know, I didn't have time to understand what is the second one. So first, spend 2 minutes. Copy and work on that, explain it to your friends, add your beautiful name as a signature to the exception. Okay, everything is fine. Okay, let's go quickly to the next part together. And this time, look, the first one was just a normal withdrawal. And in that one, guys, I just played mostly with the amounts that I had. If we just run that, we see that everything goes peacefully, right? The balance was 500. Depositing 120 makes this 620. And if you just say, I want to get 200 out of it, it's going to just say the balance after that would be what? Lovely, yes. But what if instead of the next example that you see, I just play around with this value? You can just do it yourself too. Thank you very much, Philip. Appreciate that. The thing is, if you see when I use the withdraw, I said the amount is negative 700. Does that make sense? So this is the time that one of the principles that I built is going to be contradicted, right? I said just positive numbers. So that is why the best is to put the withdrawal part inside the try-catch block. Huh? So let's just, guys, I'm lazy. I'm just going to change this one to negative 200. So in that case, it's going to tell you that what I want to withdraw, guys, it doesn't show negative 200 for me. Maybe at your computer it shows negative 200, and it goes back to the setting that I have on Windows. And I said for negative numbers, show parentheses. So that is why sometimes you see that, for instance, currency is pound for some computers, rupee, right? And so on. So here it says amount cannot be negative. Does that make sense? Okay. How about the next exception that we have here? The amount is 2,000. So let's have a big number, which is going to trigger this condition. Not this one. The amount is greater than the balance. So it's going to say insufficient fund, dear customer, 3 exclamation marks to show that this is personalized. Let's see. So it is going to say insufficient fund, dear customer. This is what I just created a few seconds ago. That's exactly the same. And by saying that, guys, it says that C# exception general inside there for insufficient fund, I have deleted the following. I just deleted that part. I just deleted that part. If I do that, I need to do one more thing. I have forgotten what that is. Exception means this. You're right. So, and this two catch exception, fine. And in that case, you shouldn't say 2 catches with the same thing. Delete that one too. Check anything else? No. Then if you run, it's going to be this one, insufficient fund, dear customer, for example. And this is a simplified, very simplified version that I have provided at the end. So if you see, we don't have any account exception that we had before. So spend 2-3 minutes, work on the whole file, make sure that everything is super clear.
Hi, so in the last video,
I'm sorry. Whenever you are done and you feel happy about the things, are you happy? Great. It's rare to find happy people. So, look. Do you remember that I told you we have exceptions, we have errors, right? That's part of the life. But we shouldn't be happy if we could catch one or two or three of them. I told you if you want to make your application robust, give it to your enemy to check. You might ask why. Unfortunately, today we do not have time. So I have just reserved 19 plus 13 is going to be what? Just we can watch 32 minutes of videos. Yeah, people check the time now and say that, okay, Reza, we just have a few. We are gonna watch one 13 minutes video for 10 minutes, but I ask you, please, please watch the other one, which is 19 minutes at your convenience, okay? This guy, Scott, is from the original source, from Microsoft. He's a Microsoft engineer. And once he just made a goof up, he said, yeah, if you see any problem, you can Google it. And then he said, okay, you can Google it in Bind, that Bing, sorry, the Microsoft. But he's the guy who is certified and he's engineer from there. So we are gonna watch that. But I quickly go through the concept a little bit to tell you what is happening in unit testing. Whenever you define a project that is to reply some needs and to answer something that somebody defined a project for, like defining an account in banking system, to respond to that, you need to make sure if it gives proper answer, yes or no, as simple as that. So if you have 1,000 and somebody deposit 500, do you expect to have 1,500 or 500 as the result? 1,500. From that, if you withdraw 200, do you expect to have 1,700 or 1,300? 1,300. You know all those things. You need to check and make sure that if it works. Look at this one. In the set of slides that we have, we are going to go thoroughly to this concept. And today, unfortunately, we can just touch the concept. Next week, hopefully, if I can finish everything, including the GUI, we don't need to have any extra session. Otherwise, the same day means Saturday between 3:30 to 5:30, right? I'm going to set up an online session, right, for the continuation of what we start. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's going to be a very good day for me to have like 10 hours of teaching at Centennial. I try my best to finish as much as we can. So, but if just in case that happens. So unit testing contains these steps. Let's define them. One of them is prerequisites. Before we start the journey, prepare the walkthrough, create a unit test project. We don't have just one way of doing unit testing. We have several libraries that you can import them. One of them is something that we are going to watch today. We create a test class, and then we create the first test method and build and run the test. If they are all checked, means that good job. If there is any cross in one of them, it's going to say, hey, something is not working properly, go and fix that one. So most of the time, we are not going to write just one test, 2 or 3. We have set of tests and we see How many of them are already passed? How many of them needs to verify? And fix your code and unit tests to improve the code. Before we watch the video, guys, writing a code is something that after a while you're going to be biased. You think that, okay, that's my code, that's my beloved code, and you don't want to touch it. But somebody else who is a stranger, they're going to say, okay, let's see how we can crack it. It's exactly this picture. If you are a developer, your application is like your beloved child. But if you're a tester, you deal with that child like this. Okay, so the whole idea is to test and see how robust is the application. By saying that, let's, awesome, thank you, Asra. Let's just go to the video, and that is the last task for today. Is it going to pass the test or fail the test? Fail the test. What is the thing that we expect? Guys, we expect that it can just throw an error. So this is the time that if you throw error, you pass the test.
Here, something's happening.
So we shouldn't expect when it is 8,000, you already have sufficient amount. We shouldn't throw any exception. This is the time that we cannot see this kind of advanced. What you saw is the advanced version of testing, unit testing. Next week, I'm going to provide, and that is why what I expect in the exam, a simplified version of that, which is a little bit older, but it's very much simpler. So if you know that, down the road, you can switch to this one. But that is what we expect for this current semester. Thank you very much. I appreciate what you did today. And that's pretty much it. Next week, we're going to continue our journey. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording.